I want to welcome Blue Williams, who is the manager of everyone from CeeLo Green to Nick Cannon, and the business partner of the late Chris Lighty, who managed 50 Cent and LL Cool J. And some of the biggest names in music. Chris Lighty was found dead last week in an apparent suicide that has sent the music industry reeling and left so many unanswered questions about the factors that may have led up to his death, and also about the future of his business and his long list of superstar clients from here. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
First of all, my condolences on the loss of your friend and business partner. And before we start, I want to put in perspective who Chris Lighty was. He was responsible for the careers of many artists, including 50 Cent, LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes, Sean Combs, certain aspects of his career. Before that, he managed greats such as Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul. He was very close with DJ Scott LaRock and helped him in many ways. And before that, he carried records for DJ Red Alert as a member of a group of Bronx kids known as the Violators. He went on to form Violator Management, and he is best known in the business for helping to broker the famous vitamin water deal in which 50 Cent took stock in the company in exchange for his endorsement, and when the company was sold to Coca-Cola, he reaped a windfall worth a reported $100 million. You were raised in the Bronx, and last year you and Chris merged together your companies. You worked closely with him. There's been so much speculation as to what might have happened. The medical examiner's office has said an apparent suicide. Members of his family and Russell Simmons have said that they don't believe it was a suicide, and the family has even hired another examiner to make a determination as to the cause of death. First, before we get into everything, do you believe that it was a suicide?
I think at the end of the day, it was a tragedy. I think really he's gone, and we're all suffering a great loss. And so no matter what happened specifically, the end result is that he's gone, and we've lost a leader.
And there have also been reports, some of them conflicting, about the events in his life that may have led to this. They range from marital problems to financial problems to the pressure of the industry. What other factors could have weighed into that? And the question is was depression part of that?
I think that the pressure that comes with being a manager, a leader, a icon as Chris was, can weigh on people, and it can weigh on it's a heavy burden to carry, and you know that weight can affect you, and it can start to take its toll on you. And I think that sometimes when you're carrying around that much weight, we as men, as black men, as hip hop entrepreneurs and stuff, we don't always let it on that we're carrying that much weight. And so it affects everyone differently, and especially if you internalize it, it can really eat away at you from the inside out.
Not long before Chris, there was another very high-profile young black music executive, Shakir Stewart, who was also found dead as a result of an apparent suicide, with lots of speculation that he may have dealt with depression. There have also been others in the community. Depression is not unique to the black community. But the question is there a difference, a cultural difference in the way that it's viewed and dealt with in the black community, and what do you do about that?
I think the problem that we face as young black men as we come up, that you have a lot of brothers that didn't have father figures, so they already weren't used to talking to other men about their problems. And so it's internalize it, keep up the image. You have to keep this strong image in this game where weakness can be a dangerous thing to show. And unfortunately, in the black community and in the hip hop commercial, such a misogynistic game that, you know, depression, some type of mental illness, anything that can be viewed as a weakness is hidden. And to me, that's where the root of the problem is, that whether it was Shakir or whether it's Chris or so many other young brothers out here that just feel like they have to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, to feel like they don't want to expose themselves to being normal and having problems and being under stress. Like the stigmatism that there's something wrong with going to see a therapist, that there's something wrong with going to see a doctor. You know, it's those type of things that are an additional burden on a young black man when he's trying to rise and build his career and build a company and build his life and start a family, that if we take nothing away from these type of tragedies, I would hope that we could open up a channel or a way for men to talk to each other and feel safe and understand that it's not going to come back and bite you. Because I understand the side of you don't want to expose yourself as having issues and then have to go back and negotiate with somebody later and have that used against you. But, talk to somebody outside of your circle. Find a support group. Talk to someone that can help you talk it out. I've been to therapy. I went and had to talk through some of the stresses that I have dealt with in my job. And I realized that you do get a certain relief from just verbalizing stuff. And if more of my peers, more of my brothers, compatriots can realize that it's not a weakness to do it, I think then that's the first step towards a better healing in our community.
And if anyone can relate to the pressures that go along with this job, you can, because you've managed some of the biggest names in the music business. Take me inside the life of a manager, and when you actually manage these superstars, not one, but 5, 6, 7, 8 of them at one time, the kinds of things that factor into that can cause pressure.
When you're a manager, you absorb and take on all of the problems of your clients. In a nutshell, your job is to shield your clients from everything that distracts them from making money and making music. So you take on their issues with their families. You take on issues that they may run into in the streets. You take on issues that they have with finances. You deal with the label. You deal with the rest of the outside world. You deal with girlfriends. You deal with whatever they're going through. And you have to navigate and help them navigate through this in this minefield that we call success. But at the same time, at some point in your day, you have to get to your life. And a lot of times when you're a manager, your life is the last thing you get to. And when you have a superstar artist, especially an artist that, one might call needy and needs a lot of attention, you go from not getting to your life until the end of the day to not getting to your life for a year. It's very easy for you to get wrapped up in a cycle of managing an artist and not get yourself to the doctor, not get yourself to the dentist, not get yourself the proper eating and sleeping and exercising. Because if you do it on the level that Chris did it, that I love to do it, that good managers do it, you basically throw yourselves into that artist's life and it becomes part of your life. And I make a joke that artists wake up every morning and wonder what the world can do for them. It's a luxury that they enjoy. Like, I need this, I gotta call this person, they're gonna do this. As a manager, you wake up every morning trying to figure out what do you have to do for the world to keep it moving. And so that will build up on you. That pressure can add to the stresses that you're carrying around. And you just you have to learn how to nurture yourself. And you don't really learn how to do that all the time because the drive and the determination to get that next check, to make that next deal is that's sort of what you know. When we talk about Chris Lighty, Chris came out of Rush Management, which was Russell and Lior and Public Enemy and Run DMC and all that stuff. And so he saw how it was done like that. And when he built Violator, you're talking about a man that built careers. There are managers that have built one career. You have managers out there that have done a great job with one artist. And I respect them because that is no less of a challenge. But when you build multiple careers, when you take on the number of lives, personalities, and conflicts, different record labels, all those multiple times, and you do it time and time again, that's a talent. It's a talent and a work ethic that people don't necessarily recognize. And as a manager, it's not your job to step up and wave your own pom-poms.
It could be said that Chris Lighty was a genius in many ways because he understood not only the street culture, but also the corporate culture. He was a guy who could stand in front of a club with the bulletproof vest or speak the King's English in a meeting where he's going to broker $1 million deal for his client. In working with him, what would you say his real talents were?
Identifying talent. Chris's talent was being able to identify, nurture, and cultivate talent and his ambition. And so when you put those two together, the sky's the limit. When you can see in, you know, a Busta, when you can see in a 50, and you can see in all these other artists that Chris managed, and Missy, and all those that what other people might not have seen yet, and to know this is gonna work. And then on top of it, you can see in a Mona Scott, you know, the executive that she would become. When you can see in just all the other executives that he groomed out of Violator. So it's not just that he managed talent. He was a groomer. You know, this man provided opportunities for people to feed their families. And so that, to me, that was his.
He also evolved because he started out as a manager, but then he broadened what it meant to be a manager by starting to take hip hop into the corporate world and saying, look, we can get some money over here, we can get some money over there. And he helped his clients evolve. I mean, look at 50 Cent. I mean, sitting down with him, you see his brilliance and his willingness to accept his responsibility to evolve through his platform and also through philanthropy. Did Chris contribute to that with his clients?
Yes, he took great pride in educating his clients on the world beyond just their music. It was important that he got them to understand that there's a world outside of your neighborhood. There's a world where you have responsibilities, where you need to see things besides just the club. And he took pride in opening those doors and putting them in rooms that they normally didn't even think they need to be in. Yeah.
And just to put things in perspective, he was a 44-year-old man, but for more than a decade, he was a millionaire. This is a Bronx kid, a black kid who became a multimillionaire. And not only that, he helped create probably dozens of black millionaires and multimillionaires. That wasn't something that he ever, when you talked to him, took credit for. But we talked, I remember, about the importance of helping his young clients seize their opportunities to not only become wealthy, but to stay wealthy. Why was this so important to Chris?
Because
to you, because I know you feel the same way.
Our story is similar because someone gave us that opportunity. The reality is that whether it was Red Alert, seeing the potential in Chris and going and making him the Jungle Brothers road manager, or it was Lior offering Chris a job to come and work at Rush Management, or Shakim Compare offering me to come work at Flavor Unit. It was these people saw something in us and gave us that opportunity, and it was our mandate. It's our duty to do that for others. You have to. It's each one teach one. You have to give back. It's not about getting in and I got in. I know how to do it. It was I got in. Who else can I get in, and who can I help achieve their dreams?
I want to read a statement that Russell Simmons put out, who worked with Chris early in his career. Bottom line, hip-hop isn't the same hip-hop without these black mentors showing kids the way. Black kids from black neighborhoods, usually polluted with poverty and violence, need mentors like Chris Lighty to navigate through the rough waters. What do you think he meant?
I think that when hip-hop started, when it was just Russell going through the door and he looked around, he didn't see other people that looked like him, he realized that he needed to bring people through, and that Russell, to this day, is still opening up doors to us that didn't know. Russell showed a lot of us about art. Russell showed a lot of us about fashion. And now you have this next generation of kids coming up where you don't have the same opportunities that we even had. The music industry is different. It's not, there was a period where we were just, everything was all good. We were all making money. It was like, hey, let's have a good time. But now the music industry's tighter. The finances are harder to come by. You got to work a little harder. And a lot of people are in survival mode. And when everybody's in survival mode, it's not as many people in mentoring mode. And I think what Russell was trying to say is that as much as we're trying to be in survival mode, don't forget the mentoring, don't forget the nurturing. And I often say that as a manager, every uneducated manager in the game makes my life harder. Because if I'm trying to do good deals or good business, but then this person comes through and acts up, or his artist acts up, and I got to come behind them, that person now has that impression that that's what it's going to be like to do business with all of us. So it's my job, and Chris felt it was his job, to talk to the young manager, to tell him, hey, you know what, try it this way. You don't have to run into the building this way with a bomb strapped on you. You can run into the building ringing a bell or something just to get their attention. There's different ways to approach it. And Chris took pride in educating young managers and his artists, just the different ways to rise above stuff.
And it was only in November when you and Chris came to discuss your merger with me. It was there that we got a glimpse not only of how committed Chris was to the business, but also how socially conscious he was, as we talked before. He was indignant, if not self-righteous, about the notion of black businesses working together and doing partnerships together. Let's take a look at what he said in that interview.
The coming together also is a good statement for our culture, because it's usually been the crab in the barrel effect, you know, one African American not helping the other African American. So this is like the first time really showing unity. Imagine if Russell Simmons and Andre Harrell had did Def Jam Uptown together instead of doing them apart. You know, it could have been phenomenally as big as Def Jam was, and I was part of that. But with Andre, it could have been absolutely bigger than Motown. I always say Def Jam was my Motown, but if those two people have gotten together, they're best of friends, so why did they not do their company together? So we're thinking we'll provide more services, provide more opportunities for our clients.
And sitting at his funeral, you couldn't help but notice all the superstars that came in, all of the influential music executives who came in just to pay tribute to Chris. But while sitting there, it really occurred to me that when you look through, as all of these guys came, these guys are getting older. A lot of them in their 40s, some of them in their 50s. You guys really did it. You made hip-hop a cultural phenomenon, but there's a new generation coming behind that's got to keep it going. Who are they and where are they?
They're out there. There's you know, you got the Kendrick Lamars and them on the West Coast that are trying to create their movement. I saw a period in music where there was a lot about me, and stuff that went on, but I'm seeing movements now. Kanye and his good music movement. You have movements and you have these pockets that are trying to rise above the simplicity of what the game has sort of become. And when I meet, you know, Top Dog, who runs Kendrick Lamar, and they're all on the same label and they're signed to Dr. Dre. When I meet a young brother like him, and I see in him, and I see the energy in him that you would see in when Puff had that energy. When you meet those, when you see an A$AP Rocky, when you see Future in them, and you see these young kids with they still have that hunger that we had, like that we used to run through doors with. You want to, when you see them make mistakes, you want to be like, call them and say, hey, it's cool. That's all right. This is how you deal with it. And what happens a lot of times is we get into our own individual mousetraps and we're just running around. And so no one reaches out when you make a mistake. And Chris was a reacher outer. You know, I try and be a reacher outer, and I'm trying to do it more now without Chris here. I feel like I have to take on that responsibility to reach out. That if I see a young manager or somebody in some, let them know, hey, if you need somebody to talk to, you're not sure about it, that is okay. That doesn't mean I want your artist. It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm just calling because I may have been down that road. But there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are trying to figure out and navigate their way through this new digital game that we live in. And they're making the rules as it changes. They decide that they're gonna drop 3 mixtapes before they drop a label album and stuff like that, and that's how they keep themselves hot. They're deciding how they want to do it, and it's cool to watch. And Chris, to his credit, and I say this with the utmost respect for him too, he stayed hip hop. Chris stayed hip hop. I've gone pop. When Outkast went pop and CeeLo went pop and everybody, I saw Pop Life and I was like, hey, this is easy over here. I can do this. Chris stayed hip hop. He had artists like Troy Ave and Uncle Murder and these young artists that he bring in the artists in the label, in the office that he was excited about. And I'd be looking like, all right.
What's great about him was that he knew how to make a moment. When you looked at, think back to 50 when he came out and he dropped a mixtape where he was just talking about everybody. He was ferocious. He was almost, they crafted this image of him where he was probably the most feared man in New York at that time. But by the time that album hit and he went on to sell millions of records, which paved the way for the Vitamin Water deal, This guy had everybody's attention. Chris did the same thing with Scott LaRock, as Lear Cohen said earlier on. He helped out, and when that came out, there was a feeling about criminal-minded on the streets that people had. Was his gift also marketing?
Oh, it was completely marketing. I mean, it was a complete grasp and understanding of hip-hop, hip-hop's current place, where hip-hop could go, how to get there. If this artist can take us there, can this artist take us this far? People forget, Busta had Sprite commercials. Long before there were there were all these happy rapping commercials. You had Busta Rhymes and Sprite commercials. You had LL doing commercials. Like, Chris and them opened a lot of those doors for the first times you saw rappers in commercial. Chris did Drake's Sprite deal before Drake dropped his album. So he didn't believe that there was a glass ceiling in hip hop. He didn't believe that there was any place that we couldn't go. And that opened so many doors that people just don't really even connect to him.
What kinds of deals were you working on with Chris, and what is the future now? What are you looking at and excited about for Primary Wave?
Continuing his legacy, continuing the plan that we had to bring in more managers. Like, my first thing is to, protect the clients and make sure that they get through this and everything with heads up and keep their careers going. And then to bring in more managers. I can't replace Chris, but I can bring in a few managers out there that I believe get it, and I would love to bring them in and make the vision of us all working together a reality and complete that task that we started. And then it's funny. I see everything and anything. I don't really see one thing, because any one thing I know we can achieve because we've done it. And so I see my clients on Broadway. I see clients in Vegas. I see clients having TV series. I see clients with restaurants. There's nothing that we can't do in hip hop because we've done it. It's just a matter of us thinking of it and then making it happen.
What is the message that you want to leave us with today?
Remember Chris Lighty as the visionary that he was, as the father that loved his kids, as a manager's manager, an icon. I said the other day, you have to put a Mount Rushmore of hip hop business people. We can get into artists and who should be up there. I'm not going to get into that with you. But you would have to put Chris's face up there. You're going to have to put Russell's face. You're going to have to put Chris Lighty's face up there. And then we'll fill in who else needs to get up there. And that's what I want people to remember about my partner Chris, about his legacy, about Violator, and to build onto that and really continue to take hip hop to new heights and to bring us together, as well as I want to extend myself to brothers that may know me, may not know me, but might need to talk. I've had the same phone number since 1995. I don't change my number. That's who I am. So it's okay to call and talk. Sometimes we just need to just get it out of our system. And I think that more of us should do that. We should reach out to our friends and make sure they're okay. And don't just let people brush it off like, yeah, everything's okay. Right. Sometimes you have to probe. Sometimes you got to push a little more than you may feel comfortable. But try and help somebody get through a rough time, because you don't want to be thinking, like I was last week, did I do enough?
Were there any signs, or did he ever say that he was struggling with depression or having a hard time at all?
Nah, I saw the look of a fellow manager with a lot on his shoulders. And so you wonder if, could I have called and checked on more? Could I have done something? But that's me, how I'm thinking. I think that it was just the weight of what comes with the responsibilities. And Chris had broad shoulders, and he never ran from responsibility. So you carry that, and he learned how to carry it. And so that's what I want people to remember, that those broad shoulders let a lot of people stand on them. A lot of people stood on Chris's shoulders to feed their families and improve their lives. And that's what I want people to remember about him.
That's the question. Who takes care of the caretaker?
Yeah.
Blue Williams, thank you so much, brother, for
man.
coming in. I wish you the best as you continue to move forward, and come back, of course, and let us know about all of your business developments as they come along.
Thank you very much.
And with Blue Williams, I'm Lee Hawkins for the Business of Celebrity. We'll see you next time.
The if we dropped the ball at Def Jam, everyone was counting us out and looking for us to fail. So we constantly had to expand the opportunity and expand the realm of existence and possibilities for the artist.
So I feel like I need to make as much music and be as creative as possible until my time is up.